And it's 5:15, so I would like to call this meeting of the Oregon Public Library Board to order on September 11th. May I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Stata.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Goplin.
Here.
Bergstrom.
Here.
And Reese, Beshen, and Rosenfield. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Laura. I would entertain a motion to adopt or amend the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of adopting the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, buddy? All right. Any community input this evening? No? No? Okay. Moving on to 5A, amending or approving the minutes from our August meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Since I was not here, I would like to abstain. Is that enough still to?
It is not enough to pass. I'm not sure. And so we will just have this on the
Go
agenda
next
next month,
time.
just to be extra careful.
Okay, thank you.
That happened as well, so.
Yeah. So moving on to review and payment of bills and accepting the financial reports.
Do they need to say
Oh, yeah, do you need me to rescind their?
their first and second motions?
Carlene is here, so.
Carlene is here.
Saved by the-
We can-
circle back on that real quick.
I mean,
We
never
can
mind,
just
we
wait
can
a
do it right
second.
now. I know what I'm gonna follow you guys through.
We are slowly approving our August meeting minutes.
I read them.
They're good.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. So all in favor of approving the minutes from our August meeting?
Aye.
Opposed? And then I abstain. Thank you. Now we can move on to review and payment of available bills and accepting financial reports.
Looking at the bills, I don't see too much out of the ordinary. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. We do have a couple program items on here. Moving forward, just so it's easier to tell what expenses are paid for by our budget versus donated funds, we're gonna be separating out the donated funds, just so that you can see that and understand how those are being broken up a little bit more. So all the performers that you see on this bill are paid for with donated funds. We are also wrapping up some of our final building bills. We will have some stragglers and kind of additional projects that you'll see come, but for the most part, we're wrapping up. We wrapped up our commissioning and OPN services and trainer services, so that will be kind of waning.
Excuse me, I'll need to step out for a moment.
Okay. Are there any questions on any of the bills?
Okay. Is there a motion to,
Make a motion to pay bills and accept the financial reports.
thank you, is there a
I can
second? Thank you, Carly. All in favor? Opposed? All right, motion carries, thank you. Moving on, this one is super exciting. To 6A, the American Library's September and October issue of the Library Design Showcase featuring our library.
So, just kind of a fun thing to celebrate that the current issue of American Libraries magazine, it's a nationwide magazine by the American Library Association, and this issue features 12 libraries in the Library Design Showcase, and we're fortunate to be one of the libraries that they chose to celebrate in this issue, which librarians all over the country read. So it's kind of a big deal to be included in that feature. So we are on page 22. If you have a print edition, I do have a copy for all board members if you're interested in having one. And otherwise it is in your packet as well. So we just have a photo of the lobby. Somehow the donor plaque is not included in the photo, so I was a little disappointed to see that cropped out. But great photo of the main lobby area, the views of the window, the nice chairs they have there, and kind of focusing on some of the natural connections that we used, and then also some of the sustainable features that we have included. So nice to see that highlighted for the library. Are there any questions on that?
It was cool that like, out of the 12 children were from Canada, so we're like top 10 in the US, so that's what I would tell everybody.
It's awesome.
I think it's amazing.
Great.
Okay, moving on to the director's report.
I actually do have a question about what do you think are some of the best ways that we can feature this so village residents know? You know,
we've shared it on some of the library communications, so I'm not sure what's going
and
to be
it's on the library's Facebook page.
It's on the library's website. We have a graphic at our digital displays. It's on our social media. So we've been trying to celebrate it.
Yeah, so we can,
In some of those ways, so people kind of are, can have that pride in their community and what
Could
we
it
do.
go in the board packet kind of for it all?
What?
Could it go in the board packet at all for like the village board? Like in your
I could ask. I did
maybe?
send it to board members, but I could ask if they could go in the packet if you think
Yeah.
they should.
yeah, I do. And just along those lines, I think that sometimes it's, like, for the work that I do, we have a social media amplification group. I mean, we are kind of a natural amplification group for things at the library, but friends of the library, other people who could, just really, the ripple effect of that is pretty tremendous.
They do have it included in their upcoming newsletter, so that'll be nice to
Yeah.
celebrate there too. So, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, moving on to the library director's report.
So I'm gonna spend a little more time on this since we have a shorter agenda. So we had our new library page position, Kelly, start today. She's gonna be a great addition. She has some experience working in libraries in the area. We also have an upcoming staff in-service scheduled for October 11th. We're fortunate Laura's gonna join to talk to staff for a little bit. And then Martin, the village administrator, will come to talk about the referendum so that staff kind of all understand why it's being requested and some of the details, so they
It's a great
are on
idea.
board with kind of the reason for that and how it fits into the bigger picture of the village. We also had some exciting milestones for the library project that kind of happened. So we just finished, the day after Labor Day, we had our final punch list item completed for the building part. And so that also allowed them to finish commissioning. So everything, all the commissioning items were addressed so that commissioning is complete as well. We made our final payment to Tri-North after they completed the final work. And then we were able to submit our final USDA grant reimbursement request. We still have a few items on their closeout checklist to complete, but that was all contingent upon these other things happening first. So I'm hoping we can wrap that up this month. Some other exciting things that we've seen kind of move forward is the community room. They did the work on the HVAC returns, and the noise is significantly reduced. So they took measurements of the noise before and after, so you can kind of quantify that. We do also still have microphones, so if a group needs to use those or wants to use those, we absolutely have them available, but the noise while you're in the room is just more of what you would expect to be in a typical meeting space. We still have on order some acoustical ceiling tile for the makerspace because of all the finishes are kind of hard. The noise kind of echoes, and that's kind of a problem when you have lots of active things going on in there. So we are working on the acoustic panels for the ceiling to help with that. If that doesn't quite do the job, we'll also look at for some paneling for the wall to go along with that, and they can do some cool designs and colors to keep it a fun thing. We do continue to work with Tri-North on a number of warranty items. I think we have around 20 kind of on an ongoing basis. Today they came and took care of a damaged tile in the lobby, so that was good. We have an electrician who's working on a couple items that are on order, some things that are being replaced under warranty. So those are continuing to move forward, and we're happy whenever we can wrap some items up and then move on to other new items. We had LFI come today finally to do their final punch list, and disappointingly, they were only able to do about half of the items on the list and didn't have the correct things. So they have about 5 things that they need to order and will be coming back, but we are much, much closer to being done, so we can actually use some of those areas that have been sitting empty, we were able to put all our extra parts and pieces in storage instead of leaving them out to see what they needed, and so that's a great progress, and we're hoping to wrap that up very shortly. We are also really close to being able to submit our IRA, Inflation Reduction Act application on our geothermal system. So they said that they would have everything ready to submit, except for the one thing we're trying to discern is if we can apply for the domestic content bonus based on the manufacturing of the HVAC systems. We've gotten some information for that, but we're not quite to the point where they can tell if we're eligible, and it's a significant amount of money if we are. And so we're gonna be navigating through that just to see if there's any chance we can qualify for that. We wanna do that for the village. The village, on the village side, they do have a new village website, which is fantastic. And so it allows people to subscribe to the library board agendas a little bit differently than before. Now we're gonna also be able to have our packets available and take out some steps in workflow for the village and our staff to hopefully make things better and more accessible for folks. I still will be sending, for the meantime, emails to you. At some point in the future, we may just subscribe you that way, but for now, we're gonna keep things as is. You may have noticed that the village is working on replacing the walking and biking path around the library, the loop. They've done phase 1, which was the half on that side of the loop. And they're planning to do phase 2, which will be the portion in front of the library, but they're not quite sure when their contractors are gonna be able to do that work. It is expected yet this fall. So that'll be nice to have for people walking or biking to and from the library. Are there any questions? The other thing we're gonna be including more in your packet, just so you know all the amazing things that our staff are doing. In addition to the calendar, we're gonna try to do kind of upcoming events for the coming month, so you can kind of see a little more detail. So this is our first go around. It might look a little differently next year, or next month and next year, just to kind of highlight all the different things for the different age groups, so you can kind of see what's going on. We have kind of expanded the programming for the fall because our LTE employee has been able to stay on this year, but that's not built into our budget request for next year, and so you'll see that we kind of expanded programming, but we'll need to kind of cut back in the spring based on staffing levels. So we'll be kind of prioritizing for the spring, and then we hope that we're able to add staff that will allow us to, having staff return that will allow us to kind of sustain some of these awesome things that we're able to offer right now. Any questions? For library statistics, I just want to highlight a couple things. So our door count, if you see the purple is our door count, and August was our busiest month so far this year, so we're not getting slower.
That's amazing.
Circulation has been between 24 and 25% increase over last year for the last 8 months. So we're kind of hanging in that sustained growth, not just right when we opened, but continuing to have people do that.
Can I ask a clarifying
Yeah.
question?
Yep.
Does that really, 12,561 people came through the door in the month of August? Is that the number I'm seeing here?
Yes.
What's the population of Oregon?
It's around 11 something.
So just for anybody watching on the TV, more people than the entire village of Oregon were in our library in the month of August, and that is amazing. So thank you guys to all you're doing, and thank you to everybody that's coming to visit us.
And the door count does, just so in case people ask, it does only count when they enter, and it doesn't duplicate when they exit, so just so you know, that's taken care of.
And it also, like, if I'm holding a kid's hand and they come in with me, how does that count?
This counter is actually pretty sophisticated,
Okay.
so I don't know if you're walking next to them, if it works. In the past, there's been some times where babies would get missed if they're being carried, but there's also some times where we might have like a contractor come in, so overall, it gets pretty close to the actual number of visitors.
That's amazing.
But-
Well, and when you look at it and you think about, the amount of checkouts and everything, I mean, it correlates that there's the door counts and the checkouts, go up together.
I will say on the first day of school, it was eerily quiet. I was like, what's going on? It was like almost like a horror movie because it was so quiet. It was strange. So, but it's picked back up, so we're back to normal.
Yeah, when school is ending, boom, there's the count.
So we're also starting to track meeting room use. We don't really have a baseline, but it's kind of gonna be exciting to see how many people have used those rooms as of the end of the year. And then our checkouts, again, the purple line is this year. It's the highest, so far. Again, it's about 24-25% consistently higher than that month the previous year, or overall cumulatively. Also the self-check, we are still having about 80% of our checkouts. In August, we're on the self-check, and you can kind of see it varied around, but it was around 80% all year round, which is great because that frees staff time up to help people with more sophisticated questions. And then
Even
this
my
is
husband learned how to do self-checks. He's really proud of himself
it's
on
like
that.
the best self-check experience ever. It's great. The other thing that's really different statistically wise from the old library is the number of reference questions that we're getting, and we're counting it exactly the same way as we did before, but because we have desks that specialize kind of in who they're serving, and because the desks, some desks they're not doing all the different things at one place, they have the opportunity for patrons to be served better, and people are taking them up on that opportunity. So, that's part of the reason that we're needing more staff, is because we're also serving staff more in that way. Computer use is a little bit of an anomaly because more people have their own devices, but we still see kind of consistent use at the library based off of previous years, and people using it for printing and scanning and different things. So use is not really grown in that area, but it's very important and sustained and become more critical to people. Also, the library cards, we talked about the number of library cards you see in January. A lot of people were excited to visit the new library and got cards that maybe hadn't used the library in a long time, but we are still seeing a lot of people that are new to the community, visiting the community. If they don't have a library card in their own community, they can get one. We're issuing that card here, and it can work at their own community, or they might be coming to our library as a destination library. But we still continue to issue new library cards. We're confident at some point we will run out of people that don't already have a card to issue them to. But there's always people moving in. There's always children getting older that are kind of ready for a card. So we'll always be issuing new cards. So it's not like Oregon didn't have library cards before. It's just that people are really excited about the opportunity, and more people are getting them now. I think that's about all I want to highlight there. So happy to answer any questions, but it's just great to see that sustained increase in use that we were expecting and hoping to see in response to what we've tried to offer the community.
And I'd just like to thank the staff for maintaining, over doubling basically all of our statistics this year, because that's a testament to how fantastic they are, that they are doing this. So I know it would be great to get additional staff, but I want to thank our current staff for being able to do this, because it's amazing to me how everybody is always happy every time I'm coming in. It warms my heart that everyone is so excited to see everyone coming in and just keeping up with this crazy workload. So thanks to everybody. Are we ready to move on to the continuing education for the board?
So there's just two things I wanted to kind of just talk about briefly. They've been kind of something that I'd like to do on some regular basis, just to make sure everybody's aware of them. So one of the things that we added at the library is study rooms and meeting room spaces, and those have been really popular with the community. There's always a learning curve in people realizing they're available and then thinking they're the best thing ever. And so I just wanted to kind of reinforce how easy it is for people to use them. And so this is the sign that we have in each space. It has the room number, name, it has a QR code that people, if they're comfortable with QR codes, can use it. There's the web address. If they don't like QR codes, they can use that and bookmark it, or they can always ask staff, and we're always happy to either teach them how to use it for the future or just make the reservation for them. We want it to be as easy as possible. We have 4 study rooms on this floor that are primarily for adults or teen use. The teen area that has 3 study rooms that we give priority to teens for, but again, adults can use those spaces when teens are in school or not using them. And then we have 2 in the children's area that are either for youth like teens or children or tweens, and then or adults using the room with a child where they need, space to work, but a child that needs a place to be safe and occupied. So those are really great. It's super easy to reserve. You can get a confirmation email of your reservation. If your plans change, you can go ahead and cancel it right from the link. The study rooms reserve immediately. They're just automatically approved for you, but if you want to use one of the meeting or the conference room spaces, that does get moderated by a staff member to make sure that your use fits the policy. We're excited that a number of groups have been able to use the study and meeting room. We have the AV is now set up and working in all spaces. We had some trouble with the hearing loop, but are fortunate to have a group that's been using that and been able to give us feedback and help us improve that to make sure it's functioning the way it should. And so it's been really great to see those things in use. We're hoping to be able to kind of get some feedback from people that have used the rooms with, a survey at the end of the year to see how things are going and what's worked well, or if they have any suggestions. But overall, we've been getting great feedback on that process. And then 6D is another board, kind of just an FYI thing. This Department of Public Instruction has this great statement on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and what it means to be inclusive in terms of a library. And so they have kind of identified things to think about in the library as you're making policies, making decisions, ways that you want to just take a step back and think about how the library is including and welcoming everybody. And so that's something that we give all our staff as part of their onboarding, and just want to make sure that that's in front of your eyes as well, since you're making policy decisions as well. It's a great resource and a great thing to guide us.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Jennifer? Okay, moving on to committee reports.
Actually, I do have a question,
Yeah.
just from the DEI perspective, and thinking about, as we're thinking about the entire village being more diverse, equitable, and inclusive, I wonder how you would feel about us linking this library inclusion statement on the DEI page of the village website, just so.
That's fine with me. I mean, this is not our statement.
Right,
It's the
but
Department of Public Instruction, so I don't know if it'd be better to check with them and make sure they're okay with
Oh,
it, but I would have, yeah, it's,
They
from
want
our,
us to-
our perspective,
yeah.
it's totally fine to
Yeah,
share that.
okay, yeah.
So,
Okay,
Great,
moving
thank
on.
you.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports.
I don't think we have one, but we do have a personnel committee meeting scheduled to talk about director goals, because each year as part of the evaluation, we have questions related to saying these were the goals for the director for the past year, and we can't do that unless we set new goals.
Makes sense.
Okay, any village board announcements?
Yeah, so some of you may know that we have a new village board outreach program, thanks to Lynn McDaniel, who was like, we need to be out in the community more. So there's a calendar of events that village board members are signing up to be a part of, and prior to this last meeting, we were mostly attending things that were other functions of other community organizations or the school district or something. But now we're gonna do some of our own, so that is in the packet. I think the one that stands out the most is, or actually a couple of them that stand out, are Coffee and Connect at the Kickback. So that is September 28th. It's a Saturday morning from 8 to 10:30. Lynn McDaniel is currently the only person scheduled to be at that. I'm gonna try to be there. A couple other people are gonna try to be there. And then we're also gonna be doing a village hall trunk or treat, as many of us as possible, on October 27th. And they'll all be announced, but there's some fun kinds of things.
And they just sent out an email today saying that they changed the date on that one.
Okay.
So just double check the date on
Yeah,
that.
I will,
please,
thanks
before
for
you come.
that, yeah. I'm kind of buried, I don't want you to see how
No.
many tabs I have.
It was
open
like an
on
hour ago that they changed the time, so
Okay.
you're not behind.
Oh, good. And then the other thing was just to say also something that was spearheaded by Lynn. There was a childcare summit first with childcare providers and then with families with children who need childcare. And so childcare educators talked with village board and other folks about some of the needs, and then parents as well. We also have a new lieutenant in the Oregon, I'm switching gears, new lieutenant in the Oregon Police Department. It's an internal promotion after a very rigorous process, so that's pretty cool as well. And then just wanted to, is this the time that I can talk about the DEI thing?
We have that under a 7D, so if you don't mind, we'll come back to that.
Yep, that's fine.
Yep.
Yep, so, yeah, sure. Any questions about any of that?
No, thank you.
Yeah, oh, one more thing. Ellers gave the report on where we stand with our funding and capital improvement and all of that, borrowing for the next 10 to 20 years. Anyway, bottom line is, the state legislature needs to change the way they fund not only education, but municipalities. And there was comment to that effect from Ellers, that maybe, you know, with so many municipalities now going to referendum, that there'll be an understanding that the current system is unsustainable for municipalities. So cross your fingers. And then vote.
Thank you, Carly. Any school district announcements?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, school has started,
Mhm.
and it's been a delightful start. We also have, well, first I want to mention that when I had to excuse myself, I saw several students doing homework in the rooms over here. And that was so exciting, that they have a place within their community that they can walk or bike to and do homework together in this beautiful setting. I just thought that was really great. The next thing is the first 4K event is tomorrow night, and there's usually a very strong library presence there. And that's always a wonderful thing. The families eat a meal and play on the playground together. Then there's a few stations, and libraries always in that, and thank you very much for that. And gosh, there was one more thing I was going to mention connected to that, but honestly, I think that's enough for now.
Great, thank you. Moving on to 7A, amend the fee schedule to include faxing.
So we, at the last meeting, approved an agreement to offer faxing services, and our intent would be that we could recover by people using fax services the cost to provide that service to the community, and then revisit if we're not able to cover the costs. So Kara did some research with other libraries to find out what other libraries are charging, and so after thinking about what would be reasonable, but also what would be easy for staff, we're proposing that faxing be $1 per page, up to $5. So if you sent 20 pages, it still would just max out at the $5 because of how our costs work. But to try to keep it affordable, but also, you know, to recover the costs. We can also revisit that in 6 months once we know what usage is, but we thought that that would be a fairly reasonable place to start, knowing what like Stoughton and Verona and other libraries that offer it charge. Not every library does offer it, but a number in Dane County do.
Is there a motion to approve the amended fee schedule to include the $1 per page or up to $5 faxing fee?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Coral. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Leslie. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, everybody. Moving on to an update for the 2025 library budget request.
So a number of these agenda items were on because just in case something came up, but Laura and I met with the village administrator and finance director to present the library board budget request. We went through items to explain kind of what the rationale was for anything that increased, and also to discuss our revenue sources and how those were increasing this year, and had some good conversation. At this point, there was no proposed changes or requests to adjust our request, which is a good sign at this stage anyway, but they're gonna continue to review the budget, and so they may follow up with questions or notify us of, you know, how things are looking once they've been able to look at the big picture. But so far, there's not been any specific feedback about anything that they didn't feel was, you know, reasonable. not that we're unreasonable in general, but no changes at this time for you to provide feedback on, I guess is the point.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer, for being so thoughtful about our budget request as well. I know it's not easy being in a new building to come up with projecting what it's gonna look like next year, but I do appreciate everything that you did to, and your team's help to put that together.
Thank you.
Any update on the possible village referendum?
Again, there's nothing for you to provide feedback on this time. The village is going through their process with their company that they hired to kind of get community feedback on that and help them make a decision about whether to proceed with including it, and if so, what wording and what dollar amount to include. They are hoping to have agenda items for the village board to consider at upcoming meetings, and then my understanding is they proceed with sharing information with the community for the community to review and consider and provide feedback on. So if
Can I
they're,
comment?
yeah.
Yeah, so the company that we're working with is collecting all this information, and hopefully that will go to the community residents at large to give feedback on the things that they would be up for covering. And so when, the library's featured in things like this and other ways that we can really highlight how important the services are that the village provides, again, and trying to really educate folks on this is not something where the village has just been, throwing money at everything that we can find a hole, to put it in, that we've been really quite diligent and frugal, as have all the different departments in the village, in making sure that we're spending dollars wisely and getting everything that we can for the money that we spend. So hopefully we'll be able to make the case and people will pass it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to the DEI pilot discussion.
Yeah, so the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee had spent quite a bit of time after our initial Black History for a New Day class, several months of work with the village and village staff and board members who participated in trying to figure out the best way for us to be relevant in this community, because we do feel that we want to make it as welcoming and inclusive and equitable a community as possible. And one of the things that we often hear at village board meetings in relation to lots of different things, like a diversity of issues, is we want to maintain the small town feel. And when people start to talk about small town feel, there's a lot of different interpretations. So what does that mean, small town feel? So we, you may remember, initially had thought about maybe doing something on banned books, and we decided that maybe that's not an issue that we want to tackle maybe at this point. And so we put that aside and thought this might be a better conversation. So rather than having our first conversation being a community-wide community conversation, we need practice facilitating this and getting feedback from people who are vested by their participation either on boards or committees or as board members, village board trustees, or as staff in what happens here. So we proposed to do a pilot and invite village staff, village board trustees, and members of committees and boards to participate in a conversation about what is small town feel. What do we mean? And it'll be a facilitated discussion with get it up and move around on a continuum of strongly agree with a statement to strongly disagree. These, right? This is a teacher tactic. And we'll have conversation. There's some things called fold the line, where you're actually talking with people who have the exact opposite view as you, or turn and talk with your partner, just to get the conversation going. And then we will do a debrief of what people learned, how they feel about it, get feedback for us as facilitators about how the whole thing went. And we're going to, if you're okay with it, do that here at the library. So Jennifer and I met yesterday and reserved a space for the DEI committee to practice just with ourselves at our next meeting, and then for October 29th. So we're trying to be really thoughtful about this. We probably, you know, depending on how that goes, we'll take the feedback that we get, what we learn there, tweak it, and then open it up to the residents of the village sometime in early 2025. We're not gonna try to rush into this. We don't wanna do it in the middle of the holidays. We wanna try to be sensitive to all the things that people have going on. And so, that's our proposal. And, Lena Lee Roos presented it to the village board, in early August. And they had some questions which we addressed in our last meeting, which was last Thursday. And then Jennifer and I met with Martin. I think that we're on a course. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback that you have that I should take back to the committee, so that we can make sure that we're doing this in a thoughtful and way and sets us up for success. Questions?
So is it all board, like, different board members, or will it be?
We're gonna put the
such-
invitation out with a description, so Dan Dick is quite the wordsmith. He's writing a description of what it is, and then we'll have a Google form for people who wanna participate that will, you know, who you are, what your role is in the village. It'll be noticed because hopefully all village board trustees will be there. And so I mean, it's not like it's closed, but we're not gonna have it on local cable. This is a learning for us as committee members in facilitating something like this before we take it live to the whole community. And so that's the purpose of the pilot.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to like help us on October 3rd and like help be guinea pigs so that we can, you know, be a little more prepared, and you know, you're welcome to come and do that. We meet at 6:30. We're gonna meet here next time. We usually meet at People's Methodist Church, and we always have snacks.
Thanks, Carly.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm
Um,
pretty excited about it.
That's great. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, October 9th, at 5:15 PM here in the library. Are there any requests for future agenda items?
I would like to give a report on how our just our practice went, and, you know, right now we, you know, just so you all are kept up to date on it.
Okay, is it okay if I list that under just under the report
Yeah,
section?
that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
I'll need, 5 minutes.
Perfect, thank you. Any other requests? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Carleen. A second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Coral. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.